For today's review, we are looking at the third figure in the Crisis on Infinite Earths build wave, and that is the Spectre. Now, who is the Spectre for those of you who have never heard of this character before? The included data profile card, as usual, will give us that information. As you can see, there's this nice image of what he looks like in comic book art, and this looks like some crazy tearing apart the fabric of the universe moment, right? It looks crazy. I don't know what's happening here. It's been a long time since I've read Crisis on Infinite Earths, but this is crazy. Like, look at all these Earths kind of like merging or something. So there's a cool photo of that. And on the back, his real name is Jim Corrigan. Jim Corrigan is the Spectre, the mystical embodiment of divine wrath. Torn between his desire for revenge and his destined role as an instrument of justice, Corrigan fights both the evils of the world and his own baser human impulses. The only being on Earth capable of holding his own against the Anti-Monitor, the Spectre buys Earth's other heroes precious time to execute their ultimate plan to save creation. So that's a pretty cool read-up on the Spectre. To my knowledge, there are other people that have also been the Spectre. I don't really know much of how they became the Spectre because I've never read those particular comic runs. But Hal Jordan, for example, is one that I can remember. He also became the Spectre at one point, which it would be cool if they made that into a figure. Because there's this image, if you search it up, he's holding the Green Lantern battery, and as a Green Lantern guy myself that loves Green Lanterns, it would be cool to get a version of the Spectre with like green eyes and, you know, holding like a Green Lantern battery. That would be sick. I don't know if they look different. I didn't search up like the complete source material for that version. He could very well, you know, be wearing the same exact costume as this, right? So, okay, let's talk about the figure now. This is a $40 figure. Let me just remind you that. It retailed for $40. And of course, with tax and shipping and everything, this thing is like more than $40. And in my last review with Psycho Pirate, I did say that there were two figures in this wave that had no accessories included for the figure. Psycho Pirate being one of them, and now Spectre is the other figure in the wave that has no accessories. All he came with was the head and the cape component part for the monitor. In terms of accessories for the figure himself, 0. That's not a good thing. Again, I don't know what happened behind the scenes with this wave, but this is way too overpriced for an action figure, especially when there's nothing else in this box. So, yeah, not good. As for, did they get the design of his character correct? Well, I think they did. They didn't mess that up. Like, he's pretty simple, right? Like, all he wears is just a green cape and a green hoodie, green shoes. He has, like, grayish skin, you know, depending on some of the angle of lighting, wherever he is. So, everything is correct. And the body buck that they chose to reuse, because this is not a new body buck, this is actually a reuse of an existing body buck. I believe this is the second time, or no, not second time. First time being reused, actually. First time. I don't remember there being a second time. Was there? Oh, wait, no, there was. Oh, I'm forgetting. The repaint of Martian Manhunter. If you count the repaint, then yeah, that would be the second. And then a third? Yeah, a third time? Yeah, the third. Yeah, the third time. Oh, right, the third time. The black and white version of Martian Manhunter for the BBTS. Okay, but most of it has been for Martian Manhunter because this body buck was designed originally for Martian Manhunter. But in terms of like an actual different character, this would be the first time they've reused it for a different character. So, but it does work. I don't hate it. I like the way that it came out because it does work for Spectre. And I'll get to another point because they did do something kind of interesting with the legs. They did retool the bottom part of the legs, which I'll show comparisons between this and the original figure where this body buck originated from later in the video. So let's talk about aesthetics. let's start with the head, because that is the part that we want to talk about first. I don't think they did a bad job with the head sculpt. It's pretty spot on to how I remember Spectre to look like. He's always wearing a hoodie, so the whole imprint with the shadow is because he's always wearing his hoodie. His eyes are always glowing white like that. I remember correctly, right? Yeah, it's always like that. So pretty spot on to what he looks like in the comics and also in the animations. One thing I don't like about this hoodie, however, is the fact that it's not a separate piece. So with Raven, when they released that figure back in the Titans build wave, her hoodie piece was like a separate piece. So if you rotate her head, you can rotate the hoodie with the head. But I think in that case, the head couldn't rotate inside the hoodie. I think it was glued in. However, for this one, instead of doing that, they glued the hoodie on to the cape piece right here. So the head inside can rotate, but you're not really getting much movement because, you know, the hoodie is like pre-molded to stay on. So he's not going to look up. He's not going to really look down. He can barely turn his head at all. So head articulation is kind of just, you know, it's mute. There's nothing going on with the head. Especially if you want to try to recreate like a moment like this. You can't really do that because, one, he doesn't have an alternate head expression either. So that is kind of a bummer with the head sculpt. As for his cape, I like the way that the cape came out with the whole galaxy stuff in the background, which is kind of cool. But I'm not a fan of like pre-pose capes, because in some cases, if you want the figure to be looking like in a different angle or something for a photo, having like a pre-pose cape is not the best, especially since this is supposed to be like windswept or something, right? It would have been better if they actually used wired cloth capes for this figure, but this is where I get to this other point. If I remember correctly, it was in this wave that wired cloth capes were introduced into the line. I don't remember if there were any before. I don't think so. I think it was a Superman in this particular wave that introduced wired cloth capes. And that was what started the whole change with all the capes going forward. So, because before that, it was just cloth capes, but with no wiring. And that begs the question. If Superman from this wave had the wired cloth cape, why didn't they use it for the rest of them, right? Like Psycho Pirate, Spectre, you know, these two also have capes. So, don't know what happened there, but it is kind of strange. As for his waist piece right here, you know, it's just your traditional green trunks, right? You got his shoes, pretty cool. And that is basically it. There's really nothing else going on with this figure, because he's really simple, right? He's the Spectre. But the reason why I bring up cloth capes is because if this guy actually had a cloth wire cape, it could really be a benefit for him, because if you've seen this character before, there are moments where his cape covers his entire body, right? You can't even do that with this figure because of the fact that this cape is pre-posed, it's not cloth. So that is kind of a downside to this version of the Spectre figure. And also, it's kind of sad because I don't think we'll ever see another Spectre figure in the future with like a cloth wired cape. Unless that does happen, that'll be crazy. But, you know. But usually with Mcfarlane, once they make one version, I don't think they'll ever make another one unless it's like a repaint of some kind. So, yeah. And this guy sold out, by the way. Like, that's how much everybody wanted Spectre. That, you know, people were willing to pay the price for this figure. And I think that's downright greedy for them to charge $40, knowing that there are people out there that actually need a Spectre for their shelf. And they were like, oh yeah, they'll buy the figure. And I'm like, they're not worth $40, but you still did this egregious move on the consumer base. That's not good. And I really hope that they don't do this ever again in the future. I just don't. Like, you know, raising the price is one thing, we're raising it by like double. That is crazy. So, okay, let's talk about articulation. As I said, his head sculpt doesn't really move. Like, there is articulation, but it's not going to move too much. So his arms do go up, they do go down. There is a way to move outward like this. Not really moving back because this cape is going to get in the way. He does have double jointed arms. This side works better than the other because I haven't heated up that arm. So you can see that. There is swivel here, articulation right here, swivel up here, so pretty good. As for his upper torso, there is movement going on up here, really good movement. Not going to really ab crunch forward. And his waist is also really tight on my copy because I've never heated it up. But it should move as usual. And for his legs, they do kick out pretty good. Not too bad, actually. Because this piece is actually soft. So, not bad. He does have double articulation down here. They do work. They're tight. He does have feet articulation, swivel, and toe articulation. As for his legs, can they spread out? Yes, they can. Kinda. Good enough. And that is basically it with articulation. There's nothing else going on with articulation. Now let's bring in another figure to compare him to, because this is the figure that had the body buck. And that is Martian Manhunter, who we looked at not that long ago. And you can see that the arms are exactly the same. The hands, everything are the same, right? The fist hands on each side, the torso, the waist part where his abs are, that's the same. In terms of his legs down here, the upper part of the leg is the same. The joints are the same. But the bottom half of the legs are completely different. So Manhunter is wearing boots, right? So they have to sculpt it like boots. However, for Spectre, because he doesn't have boots, they retooled the legs down here to give him more muscle definition, so it looks like a real leg. So that is good of them to do, retooling the bottom half of the leg and not being lazy about it and just, you know, doing this and just painting it all green. So really nice of them to do. But yeah, everything in terms of the figure is pretty much taken from this. It's the same body, just that one area down by both of his legs are retooled. So yeah, that is pretty much Spectre. He's a very interesting character that I want to learn more about even after this review, because I apologize for not knowing much about this character. But again, no way is this a $40 figure. Like, this is just a regular DC Multiverse figure. They are crazy for overcharging at the time that they did when they released this wave. So, if you did not pick up this figure before, I don't know if there's even still a chance to pick one up now, because that is the other problem with making it an MTS exclusive. Because when it sells out, they don't ever restock. So hopefully they do make another Spectre in the future with a green wired cloth cape, and who knows, maybe they will. We'll see. Well, with that said, if you found today's review of Spectre informative, do give this video a like. If you want to see more action figure content on my channel, trying to speak, you can subscribe to my channel. You don't have to. In the end of the day, I make these videos for fun. And with that said, take care, and I will see you in the next video.